gates. I've been talking about the Am-Duat. We doing that today. Since we talking about guardians and everything, we're gonna get into that today. Because hey, it's summertime. I ain't got nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying? Hey, let's do it. Now, this is for the fam right here. This is the Am-Duat and the Book of Gates. I realize there's two different things. Same time frame, same era, but two different books, the Am-Duat and the Book of Gates, the hidden path of the soul. Yep. That's the kind of time when we on. So don't forget to hit the like button. We're about to lean into this one. The Am-Duat and the Book of Gates. And I have this book here. I have this. This is the Egyptian Heaven and Hell. This is by E.A. Wallace Budge. It's pretty interesting. Very eye-opening, okay? And to say the least, because we know about the pyramid text. We know about the Book of Coming for by Day, the coffin text and all those, but the Book of Gates was an addition to or an expansion to that kind of universe, okay, in the New Kingdom. So it's a large funeral book in which the priests of Amun describe the other world. Okay, this is what E.A. Wallace Budge says. And in the second place, the book is an actual guide. So it's not just for the ancestors, but it's actually for those who are yet living, right? It's a guide with pictures of its various divisions of the Neteru and even demons of every kind that were to be met within them. It was an invaluable source. It was for those who were trying to navigate life. Okay, the book Am-Duat was, like I said, a very lengthy work. It occupied spaces on the walls, on papyrus, and poor people could not afford tombs, but they had the papyrus, they had the papers. The priests collected all the artifacts which were absolutely essential for the soul, so they could travel by itself through the other world into the Duat. Now, the oldest copies are found in the tombs of Tutmosis III, Amenhotep II, third, and they are located at Thebes. Okay, the Am-Duat shows us that the Egyptians treated the realm of the ancestral plane as they treated their older books. So they treated the Am-Duat, the book Am-Duat, just like they did with the Book of Coming for by Day, right? They had multiple copies of this knowledge, right? And so they wrote them everywhere. Now, so it's so much to be said about that. In the Am-Duat, get this, y'all. There's 12 divisions of the Am-Duat, which represents 12 hours a night. Okay, 12 division in the Am-Duat represent 12 hours a night. And each one, the Netra, the Uranus, the Net, Neb, Au, Kaper, Out. These are the 12 divisions. Now, that's pretty interesting dealing with the Net, Neb, Au, Kaper, Out. That is the realm of the midnight sun. I mentioned this a couple of times in the Aket, or the midnight sun, where when the sun sets in the physical plane, it rises in the ancestral plane, the midnight sun. Yeah, they're guarded. It's guarded by a bull, through which, according to one tradition, the night sun passed on its journey from the place of sunset to the place of sunrise. That's the midnight sun. Yeah. So in this, the Neteru Amiu, the gods who were within, and they were intended to represent the guardians of 7 portions into which the tunnel is divided, and the name given to the tunnel is Aut A, of the boat of the earth. So we have the sky, the sun boat, but in the Am-Duat, there is a boat. See, the Am-Duat is the preparation place for the Book of Gates. So before you get there, you going to this boat, this earth boat, right? And then you go to the other realms, right? So we have the other division, the Aket Kafaru, Ament, the Mechet Navut Taut, Tepet Shashat, Tebet Neteru, Best or Baset Ara Aket Kafaru, Metet Kwa Hochebu, Ray M Karet, Apet Kautu. And then when the sun rises again, of course, it's the Kepher or Zephyr Kikiu Kau Mest. These are the 12 divisions of the Am-Duat, right? And so, and when that person steps on to the earth boat, okay, they have those 12 shrines with the 12 Netaru, and the great chiefs are there. Okay, so and then they also mention Abydos, or Abydos is not just a physical place to them, but it is also a spiritual place to them. Okay, and so it is Amenti that is near Abydos. Okay, and so when they dealt with the Am-Duat, the deceased, even here, the deceased heart is weighed. Okay, but we'll get into that in a second. But these divisions also represented the stars. Okay, the stars that you see at night. Okay, they also represented the ancestors. Okay, so we have that. So we have the Am-Duat. Okay, let me see. Is the Am-Duat something like Christian purgatory? No. In the Roman Catholic Church, there is a concept of purgatory, right? Where they have to do something or wait for an oppressed to get to. No, I guess you could say it is a waiting place, but they're moving forward and upward. They're not permanently stuck there like in the Roman Catholic Church. You just going from this, just like you see here. You see the ancestor going on this. They're in movement. Purgatory in the Roman Catholic Church, you're stuck there. But in the ancestral plane, they're gradually drifting away from the physical realm into the higher spiritual realm. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, but I understand, there is some kind of similarity, but there is some difference there. What's going on, Sister Willis? What's going on, Sister Linda? Okay. And for those who know Sister Linda, she is the great sister of Baba Yahya, who is in Morocco. I think it's like nighttime there. Shout out to Baba Yahya Shabaka. He's a great historian. He knows a lot about West Africa, and he moved from California and he moved to Morocco. Very knowledgeable in Arabic and all those things. So shout out to him. Yeah, there is and I hope you're doing well, Sister Linda. I hope all is well with you. Yeah, there is a big difference. Okay, in the Roman Catholic tradition, you're stuck. If you find yourself in there, you're stuck. But in the African tradition, you are moving. Okay, you're moving. Okay, you're going further and further into the land of the ancestors, like almost detached, but you are moving. Okay, so let me see. All right, now dealing with the Book of Gates, though. So when you're traveling from the physical plane to you taking the earth boat. Now you're at the Book of Gates. You're at the gates and the Duat, right? Now, the Book of Gates revealed it was like a sacred map of the soul's journey through the Duat, the underworld, and the inner world of consciousness. It's structured in 12 hours or stages, each representing a challenge or a transformation. Okay. The ancients didn't just map the stars, they mapped the soul. Okay. The soul rise, the solar boat. So in the Am-Duat, there was the Book of Earth, the earth boat, right? In the Book of Gates, you go from the earth boat to the boat of Ra, the sun boat, through the night. Each hour or gate is guarded by divine beings or ancestors or even forces. You must pass these tests and speak words of power and remember who you really are. They're going to ask you your name. And then they're going to ask you what is their name. So knowledge of self is very important. And knowledge of your ancestors is just as important. In the ancient Egyptian tradition, esoteric structure of the book, each of the 12 gates is associated with a time of night. Like, say, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Okay, each represented the time of night, an element of transformation, and a trio. It was 3 guardians at each one of these gates. And the gates correspond to the sun's descent into the spiritual underworld, the realm of the midnight sun, as we talked about. And we may go into further detail about that. Y'all just let me know. And it echoes the soul's return to the source through the cycles of purification and divine remembrance. Now, for the fam, I mentioned this quite a few times, but at the temple of Luxor, there is a battle. Okay, Ramses II and the Battle of Kadesh. It wasn't just discussing a physical battle. You understand? This was a spiritual battle that every king had to undergo. On the temple walls in Abydos and across several New Kingdom tombs, and especially the temple of Luxor and Waset, the Book of Gates was vividly described. They wrote them down. Okay, you saw it, you see it played out. And Ramses, it depicts not only the cosmology of the underworld, but also the journey of a divine king. If you were king, you got to go through this process. And just like Sobekneferu had the Hebset festival, there was another thing that he had to undergo. Ramses, like Ra, is shown traveling through the gates, facing guardians and uttering words of power and emerging transfigured and changed. Right? His journey is a template for kingship and cosmic renewal. The journey of Ramses II through the gates was not merely artistic. It wasn't just pretty. It was something that he had to do. Okay. And remember, y'all, Ramses, even though he is part of, say, the new era, the new kingdom, that was a couple of 100 years since Amenhotep III. This is a while. So he had to spiritually show the people of Kemet that he was fit to rule. So the journey was through the gates, not just artistic, it was an esoteric movement. The ruler must undergo these tests of the soul, guided by Ma'at, and emerge as this separate, or Kafari, or Kefri, the one reborn by the morning light. Okay. And I think in the Book of Gates, it says, I am the gate, the doorway to the mysteries. Okay. Let me see if I can see that, because I'm going ahead of myself. I am the gate, the doorway to the mysteries. Those who know me pass unharmed. Those who don't remain forever lost. Okay. Now, if you're enjoying the content, like and subscribe. But check this out. Guess what I have? I told y'all. If you want to engage in this kind of conversation, this book here, let me move this. This book here, Sacred Science, The King of Pharaonic Theocracy by Robert Lubies, you need that. Now, in the book, okay, in the book, okay, it talks about his journey. It talks about the battles that he had to face. The Battle of Kadesh is both physical and spiritual. Okay, as a first important example of pharaonic symbology, we will present the account of this battle. Okay, he said. Now, he says here, what is difficult to understand, however, is why the king, after having single-handedly vanquished an immense army and all the allies, must continue to fight. Yeah, he had to continue. This wasn't just a physical battle where he had to show and prove. Okay, this was a night battle, and it shows him the king here is in a eastern. He's moving east. It's an east to west direction. It's comparable to the daily procession of the sun. Okay, and in the second image, it symbolizes nocturnal path of the sun. Okay, nocturnal path of the sun in this battle against the adversary, the night. Indeed, the solar king is at first overtaken by night and is depicted by the superimposed images of the enemies all around him. Yeah. So some of these, and then the reality is some of these battles he as king had to face alone. Okay. And this is the image of the temple. And it is like a sundial on the inside. Yep. Ramses, the loving of Amun, has taken a position in the south. And as the night goes on, he is undergoing another battle. Yeah, get that. But let me know if you want me to talk more into detail about that. But I don't want to hijack all your time about that. But that was good. I didn't know that they had to go through that. I didn't know that I knew that there was an initiation process from a physical standpoint, but a spiritual process that he had to do for many years. This wasn't just a one and done thing. Every night almost, his spirit had to go to battle. Like and comment below. Let me know. Now, and so dealing with the Book of Gates, it appears in the tombs in the New Kingdom. It appeared everywhere. Okay. And the time of the pharaohs like Seti and King Tut and many others, each hour represented a gate. And each gate is guarded by the Neteru and spirit, some welcoming and some are challenging. Okay. The soul is tested and asked to reveal its true nature. They want to know what your intent is. Okay. Do you really embody Ma'at? Do you really embody justice and peace? The principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. Only the pure of heart can pass unscathed. Otherwise, you're gonna get checked. Okay. Let me see. Now dealing with that, dealing with the chambers, dealing with the chambers. A lot of them were in vivid colors and illustrations, and it's roadmap. It is a roadmap for the soul's journey through the Duat underworld, and this represents the 12 hours of night. Okay, this picture here is one of the illustrations in the Book of Gates. And we have some of the Neteru, some of the ancestors, and we have the individual. Sometimes it's embodied or symbolic of Ra himself or the actual person, but they're pulling the boat of Ra or the solar boat. Okay. And we also have those who were overtaken or those who were found unworthy. They're there also. Now, and in the ancient text, it says, Hail to you, the gatekeeper of the second gate. Reveal to me the name of the one who seeks passage, that I may open the path and grant safe travel. Yeah. And so, dealing with that, the gates correspond 12 hours a night. And each phase is transformation, renewal, and is necessary. Okay, for the passage of rebirth, for the sun to rise again in the east, right? But gates are not just about death in the afterlife. Okay. It's not always about that. It's not morbid like that all the time, right? But in African spiritual traditions, the gates symbolize any threshold between states of consciousness, birth, life, death, rebirth, waking, and dreaming are gates. The visible and invisible. The luminal spaces where the ordinary falls away and the sacred appears, right? So gatekeepers are not just mere sentinels, they are the initiators, they are the guides. They mirror our readiness, your truth, your fears. What sometimes they may appear in the form of something that you are afraid of the most. They test the vibration of your heart, ensuring you see if you're really prepared for what lies beyond this. Okay. So in the Papyrus of Ani, a companion funerary text, it says this. It says, I have not committed sin against men or the gods. I have not disturbed the peace of the land. I have not lied to the gatekeeper. I have not hidden the truth from the Neteru, from the gods. Check this out. That is part of the 42 laws of Ma'at, or the negative confessions. Somebody asked me about the 42 laws of Ma'at. It is all over the place in Kemet. Okay, these declarations affirm the soul's readiness to pass through the gates, emphasizing Ma'at, truth, and cosmic order across African spiritual tradition, this idea appears in rites where niches must pass through sacred doorways to undergo tests representing death to one state and birth into another. Now, so according to according to E.A. Wallace Budge, these are the 12 divisions of the Book of Gates, according to him. And these gates are guarded by the Neteru, right? The first was guarded by Sa'et, okay? The second one is Akibi. The other one is Tachibi. The other one is Tekhara. Now, after the fourth gate, that is where you have the judgment hall of Asar. Okay, in some traditions. Okay, there's various traditions to this, and then there's another one, Set M Ma'ataf. Okay, and Akin Ma'at, Set Hara, Abta, Setu, Amnetuf, and Sebi. These are the 12 divisions according to E.A. Wallace Budge. But now each gate had 3 Neteru. Okay, like say for example, the first gate, it was guarded by a scorpion-headed person who tests the fear. As soon as you get in there, they're doing a heart check. A scorpion-headed Neteru. Okay, and then we have Hekbet, a frog-headed goddess of birth, overseeing the soul's rebirth. So when that sun is setting and it's rising in the ancestral plane, you're being birthed into that plane. And then we have the Ba, the winged soul form, appears only to those who remember their divine origin. Okay, this is the entry into the Duat, right? Let's say like the second gate, the guardians of Serket, Kardet, and Akibi, right? This is they punish disillusion and distortion. This is the silent gate. You gotta at this second gate, you can only speak the truth. Okay, you can only tell them the truth, right? And so Serket, the scorpion goddess, holds the sting of truth. Kerhet, guardian of silence, and then Akibi, right? Then the third, I couldn't put all the names here, but the gate 3, the guardians are Akir, Sabau, and Ma'at. Right, the double line Neteru. Akir, the double line Neteru who guards past and future. Sebau, chaos. Ma'at, of course, truth and justice. Okay, time is basically teaching you about time and patience. Okay, you must deal with time. And then of course like I said, E.A. Wallace Budge has one aspect of it. There's other traditions may have different Neteru, but it will have 3 of them, right? And number 4, Rekibi and Tefnut and Kinimut, right? And so Rekiti, there's the flame bearer, gate is closed by fire. Tefnut, moisture goddess, balances the fire's purging. Kemenu, the ram-headed creator who molds the reborn. So that's the rebirth, right? Let me see what the fam is saying. Yeah. It's tough, but this wasn't just for the ancestors; it was for the living. Each phase of life or each walk of life, you got to deal with time. You got to deal with peace, or you got to deal with some kind of challenge. See what I'm saying? You got to deal with some kind of opposition, like the flame bearer. Your gate is closed by fire. It is closed by opposition. Okay, so in this case, you got to speak the name of the flame. You got to call it out for what it is. Okay, or be consumed by it. That's what they're saying. Trial by fire. Yeah, the 5th gate, Sa, Net, and Isaudet. Sa is God of perception, opens the eyes of knowing. Net, the weaver of destinies. Now, this we will get into the primordial Neteru, but yes, she weaves destinies, tests clarity of purpose, and then Saset, that's another primordial goddess. Okay, it deals with clairvoyant intuition, and it also reconnects you with the ancient ancestors. Okay, and of course, gate 6, that's the 6th hour. And that is when the midnight sun is at its highest. And that's when you deal with people like Anupu or Anubis and Heka and Nebhet. Okay. That and you're with them. And Anubis, he's measuring the purity of your heart. Heka, of course, is magic, demands the word of power. Nebhet, the lady of the house. Nebhet, you normally see her with wings, okay, and she is guiding the ancestors into the duats, right? So Anupu and his mother Nebhet is together. Guardian in the seventh gate, okay, the seventh hour, guardians of Shu, Geb, and Amut or Amit. Shu is the breath and balance. Geb is the earth. Amit is the eater of the false-hearted. So if you are totally out of pocket, yeah, only truth can pass here. Okay, you got to be grounded. You got to be patient. And gate eight guardians, that's Tahuti, Sia, and Bahet. Tahuti is the scribe of memory. Sia is divine perception. Bahet is the spirit mirror of the self. This it symbolizes the record and review. One must confront the self. You got to confront who you are. And so the thing is, in ancient African custom, in ancient African tradition, annihilation is not a thing to them. Okay, either you do a reset. Well, it's rare. And let me back to it's rare that you're totally annihilated, but lessons have to be learned, even in this, right? So gate 9, Sekhmet, Wajet, and Ren. I think who that he mentioned Ren, which is the name. Okay, the true name of the person's soul. What is your name? Sekhmet, the lioness is purification. Wajet, cobra of insight and protection. Sacred. This symbolizes sacred rage, protection, and remembering who you are. Yes, you can be angry, but remember who you are. Remember what you're here for. The 10th gate, that's Ra, Hetzeru, and Amenet. Okay, you're still going through the process. You're still in the boat of Ra and everything, but now you have divine light. You have nurturing. You have the mirror and beauty. Amenet, the goddess of the west, because it opens the resting gate. Okay, light within it basically symbolizes light within darkness, and that's where you can receive peace and joy and everything else. Gate 11, Noon, Ket, and Kauket. Noon is the primordial waters of Noon. Okay, Ket and Kauket, there's the male and female of symbolism of night. You're returning to the void or the stillness before recreation. All right. And the 12th gate, right before the sun rises early in the morning, Kepri or Zephyr, the rising sun. You see the scarab beetle, the rising sun, and Ma'at, and then the stars. Okay. The elders of the stellar origin of symbolism, rebirth and emergence. The soul rises as light incarnate, right? So you have Ramses doing this. We have some of the ancestors going through this process, right? So that is the short version, the short version of the Book of Gates. Okay, and each one of them had a Netzeru. Each one of them had you had to know their names. You had to know what you were there for, and you had to know your name. Now, of course, we had the Book of Enoch again. Of course, and so the Watchers in the Book of Enoch had the forbidden wisdom in it. And a lot of people may not like the Book of Enoch, but in the Book of Enoch, they had divine beings who, like the gatekeepers of the Duat, descended from higher realms to guard cosmic thresholds. And I need to remind you, the Book of Enoch is part of the Ethiopian Orthodox canon, including the Coptic Church too. It reveals them as keepers of sacred knowledge. And so these angels function as initiators and enforcers of divine law. Now, in the Ethiopian church, the priesthood, they have prayers during the hours of the night. Okay, I know that the Coptic Church has like a book of prayers also, like every other hour they're praying, even at night, in the midnight vigils, known as the Tasum Hidar. For my Ethiopian family, correct me if I'm my accent is bad or whatever, but the Teshum Hadar, okay, or the Ethiopian monks recite hymns and songs through structured hours of the night, often from 6 p.m. until dawn, very similar to the 12-hour journey of the soul through the Duat. Each hour in its practice is marked by symbolic doorways, the striking of the Kabero drum acts like a gate bell, okay? We have to have incense. The incense cloud represents the veil between worlds, and the crossing of thresholds within the church mirrors the soul's own passage. These hours aren't just prayers, they're rituals of initiation and transformation, mirroring the soul's descent, struggle, rebirth with the rising sun. So, I said this before, a lot of the older churches still mirror ancient customs. In Nubia, we have the Dogon, okay, Nubian Dogon astral gate traditions. Among the Dogon of Mali, series, we have Potolo and Sigitolo, okay. Baba Yakia, he reminded me of that. That's the origin of the soul's life and divine order. Elders speak of Nomo beings who arrived via celestial gates and taught humans sacred principles. These portals are not just metaphor, they are vibrational thresholds assessed through ritual, sound, and alignment. In Nubia, so we have the Dogon, but in Nubia, temple complexes such as Gabel Bakar and Jebel Dosha, the shrines, and even like the Naptaplaya and the Lion Temple, the shrines were aligned to stellar risings and lunar events. Each shrine may have function like a gate, okay, activated only at a specific time, okay, very similar to the Book of Gates and the Am-Duat. And of course, the role for us, okay, the role in our memory is for us to remember those things, okay, remember who we are, remember the truth, and remember while we're passing through these gates, what is our purpose, right? It's not just remembering facts and details and dates and names, but who are you? Okay, these ancestors are going to ask, who are you and what are you here to do? Okay, the heart must be weighed against the feather. Okay, falsehood, ego, and attachments like chains, and it gotta go. Okay, and so the soul's journey through the gates is an initiation and a transformation, right? In African oral traditions, it teaches us about truth telling and persevering and preserving the memory of our ancestors, and they keep the soul aligned with the order and clear the path through the gates. Okay, so the 12 gates, the soul's journey through the gates is 12 gates is a full cycle, a nice journey of death and renewal. As the sun sleeps and the soul's journey inward, it guided by the natural light, Isis, Osiris, even Ptah, the moon, and many others, depends on the era. This journey is mirrored in African initiation rites. The crossing from childhood to adulthood, from ignorance to wisdom. Okay. You see it all over the continent. Okay, these gates were also spiritual technology encoded in sound and geometry, light and vibration, ancient tools for transformation. Modern seekers can engage in this blueprint, seeing their own trials as gates. Like I said, it's not just for the ancestors, but it's for you, for us. So the 12 gates reflects the cycle. So you see those echoes throughout the continent. And so today, Ethiopian monasteries still preserve sacred gates, each marking a stage on the path of enlightenment. Kushite tombs retain the architecture of passage, reminding us that life itself is a sacred corridor. Sound, you can hear the music in the Coptic church and the Ethiopian church. You can hear that. It still unlocks those inner gates, healing the soul. Remember, gatekeeping here is not an exclusion, but it's an initiation. Okay. So if you have, once again, if you ever had a dream, if you met a gatekeeper or somebody like that, just let me know. But yeah, this this was pretty interesting. We just talked about Blueprints of the Divine, Book of Gates, African Gatekeepers, and Sacred Geometry Revealed. Now, before I check roll, do you guys have any questions or concerns? Man, I'm glad that you guys are here though. This has been pretty interesting. Oh, I forgot because I know before I check roll, have your questions ready though. But now here are some of the books. Here's some of the books. I forgot about that. Here's some of the books. Okay. Now, the Book of Gates. I know the font is off, but the Book of Gates. This is one version of it. This is I have another. This one. The one I have is by E.A. Wallace Budge. Okay, but tomato, tomato, right? The Book of Gates, the Sacred Science, the King of Pharaonic Theocracy. That is a really good book. Okay, really good. Okay, yeah, it's on one hand we deal with the actual factuals, right? The lineages and the pharaonic ages and dynasties and stuff like that. But there's more to it. There's a other layer that we got to deal with. So this is one of them. Okay, we have the Book of Gates, Sacred Science, Temple and Man. I think Hood Daddy mentioned the Temple of Man. That I think that's the first. That's the first edition, and it is expensive. But Temple and Man, the affiliate links are in the description and everything. Check them out. The Sign and the Seal. When I mentioned that them Templars and them was visiting and trying to fellowship with Ethiopia and whatnot and got kicked out because they were being too nosy looking for the Ark of the Covenant, this is one of the books I got that from. Okay? This is one of them, right? Yeah, those watchers again. Yeah. Book of Enoch, for sure. And of course, this is we're doing our summer series on Ethiopia. The Ethiopians: A History by Richard Pankhurst. That's a really good book. I will be referring to it quite a few times throughout the summer sessions. And I've been asked to slow down. I'm going like 1,000 miles an hour. So what we will do, we will chop the series up a little bit. And if we got to recap, we will recap. This is about teaching, y'all. It's not just about me saying a lot of words and y'all catch it later. I want you guys to understand what we're talking about. I want you guys to be able to break down, the causes and effects of certain empires, or at least identify and know when and where these events happen. Okay, so because otherwise we'll be wasting a lot of time. So if you guys want me to recap or review something, y'all let me know. Y'all comment that or say, hey, can we go over this again? Let me know. Okay, because I know that over the years, the fam have been asking questions, and I do my best to research and answer that. Okay, and yeah, got a shirt. I do have merch, and the King Cam and Ujumbe shop. The link is also in the description. This is one of I need to update some. I have to add some more shirts and everything, but this is one of them. And this is my book. Okay, this is for the fans. This is my new book, The Crusades and Jihad in East Africa. We talk about when we talk about the Middle Age era, we normally talk about Europe, or we talk about Timbuktu along the Bilal Sudan, right? But there was things that was happening in Nubia and Ethiopia that we got to talk about. Okay, and I also, before I call roll, I also did learn that we know about the Knights Templar and all them, right? But the Ethiopians and Nubians also had their own warrior groups. We're gonna get into that. Yeah, they weren't just praying and burning incense. Yeah, they was throwing hands too. So we got to get into that. But now, let me check roll. Let me see who's here. Let me see who's here. All right, now these are the people who added value to the discussion, or who just came as new fam. Shout out to the new people who have subscribed and everything. Shout out to One Voice Africa, Karuk TV, Macy. Shout out to Macy. Enough is enough. Shout out to Enough is Enough. Volta. Volta, something else. Brother Mo, he's gonna be sick as soon as he find out what all this transpired. He go. I'll be your Doom 777. Melvin Reed. Shout out to Melvin Reed. Brown Osei. Library Without Borders. Shout out to the family up there in Canada. African Spirituality. Shout out to Gogo. Okay, Miss Blue, Pop Gaming, shout out to Pop Gaming, that girl Roxy, my Kudiro Ankara, shout out to the fam. All right, Grand Madam Tarot, Longevity Just, Hoop Daddy 7, Abina Scott, Noob, uh, Deborah Keaton, Royal Vision, Coon Cakes, Valerie J, Sunboy, Gianna Lee, Comedic Nation, Mark Carroll, and Zeptepi Slim. If you're present and I didn't call your name, you still here, comment here. Okay. I'm glad that you guys are with us one more time for the one more time. Yeah, shout out to Books a Million. It's a black thing. Ethiopian Airlines, Amazon. I have a lot of affiliate links. If you're interested in some of these books or some of this information, it's there. You Nice, Mika's Hair, Love Me Hair. This is our new series, Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush. It's Unified Sacred Arc. This is our summer series, and what we try to do. We try to go live at least once a week. Okay, normally Sunday, and then we do like a recap or another video on Thursday. We Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush, we deal with that on Sunday, and then we'll do something like Kemet or Nubia on Thursdays, right? So that's the theme. Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush, unified arc. Believe it or not, along the Nile Valley, they were connected. And if you like the content, share it with somebody you think that might enjoy it, and or share it on Twitter or Instagram. But now, let me see. I ain't done with that though. Nice Templar in Ethiopia, I ain't done with them. They're not going to skate. Okay. Next week I got something for them. Okay, but in the meantime, if you want to catch up on our Ethiopian series, I got a playlist. And if you want to check out Thrones of Fire and Temples of Light, I got that also. But yeah, next Sunday though, the rise and fall, Knights, Codes, and Ethiopian Stronghold. I ain't done with them because what happens is we try to make light of the situation, and yeah, them Templars and Hospitallers and many others, they were being too nosy and they were doing the most, and we got to talk about that. That'll be next Sunday. So just got to listen to Blueprints of the Divine, the Book of Gates, African Gatekeepers, and Sacred Geometry Revealed. If there are no questions, before I turn you loose, are there any questions or concerns? Are there any questions or concerns? Don't forget to hit the like button for my new people. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know more about this. But yeah, are there any questions or concerns before we go? Let me see. I know Brother Ferguson is here. Hoop Dad is in the mix. Miss Blue is here. Sister Linda is here. I see Miss Haynes. Let me see. Volta. Yeah. Yeah. So, but are there any questions or concerns? Because I don't want to hijack your time. But yeah, we got the Ethiopian series playlist going, and if you're interested, if you want to catch up, check out Thrones of Fire and Temples of Light. We got that ready for you. And if you're interested in those books, the affiliate links are in the description. Brother Ferguson says here, I appreciate it. And some of you guys have been rolling for a while, okay? And what we decided to do is lean into some things that are a little different. I know we talk about the Book of Coming For by Day, Pyramid Text, but the Book of Gates is rare. But if you want me to do another session on just the Book of Gates just by itself, y'all just type in Book of Gates, let me know. But the Book of Gates is rare. We kind of touch it in passing, but yeah, I think it's very important that we do highlight the fam in Ethiopia and Sudan as well as Kemet. What happens is when we talk about the Nile Valley, we only address Kemet and nobody else. And so I think that it's very important that we address it. And so I think ancient Nubia needs to get her shine. I think the ancient Axum, and I know Volta. I think Volta mentioned that Axum had a foggy past, and we gotta tell it. Okay, we gotta tell it. I think it's very important that we have those discussions. And what happens in when we deal with African history, we would amplify not only say certain aspects of Nile Valley like Kemet. What happened is we would amplify, say, like what we know as African traditional systems, like Ifa or what the Bamoon does or whatever, or the Hausa, and neglect the Coptic church and neglect the Ethiopian church. They all are part of the African system or a part of the African cosmos. Who that says, appreciate your knowledge, brother. Good seeing my old drum mate doing this thing. Yeah, for those who don't know, I used to play drums in high school and college. I used to yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And you know, and the thing is, even speaking of drums, in the African church, like the Ethiopian church, they still play drums, you know. Whereas where the Europeans would say that's wrong to do, they'll turn around and say, who you talking to, right? But yeah, so I think that it's important that we tell all of the story, the whole story. But now I know there's other people that will take their time out to talk about the whole continent, and it's cool. But the people that come here, that come to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast, they like for us to talk about Ethiopia. They like for us to talk about Nubia and Kemet, as well as some symbolism. And I would do my best to make that happen. And so over the summer, we will be discussing Ethiopia. And then in the fall, we will move on into Kush. But even though like Thursdays, we will still deal with, we may deal with some Kemetic science here, and another Thursday we deal with Kushite science. But for the most part, we're gonna be on that. Okay, but I really appreciate it. If there are no other questions, shout out to the fam. Prince Cam is back in town, so he is my oldest son. We went and got him from college, and he had a great time, and so he's back, and so he'll be here. He's on a track scholarship, so we get to get on his nerves before he want to go back to school. But I think sometimes the best time for family to get together, for people to learn new things. And let me know if there's something that, speaking of learning new things, if there's something that you want me to address or discuss, let me know. It's not just what I want to talk about. There's what do you guys want to talk about? Y'all let me know. Y'all like and comment. But if there's nothing else, you listen to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast, and we just got through talking about blueprints of the divine. And don't forget, let me see what's that next week. Yeah, we're gonna get to that next week. The rise and fall of Night's codes and the Ethiopian stronghold. Okay, we'll deal with that next week on Sunday about same time. And so if there's nothing else, listen to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast, and I will talk to you later. Peace.